Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chesswise. Today we are at the next topic, that is the king and pawn endgames, and we are at the intermediate level. This is the second position of our topic of triangulation. Last time we discussed that when it is not possible to win with a single pawn on its own, then the concept of triangulation comes into play. If we look at this position, it's white to play and win. There are some complexities in the position. Firstly, after the move d4, white cannot make any progress. After ke4, kc3, and black has the good move king f5. King d5, kd3 would allow white to get the opposition and the pawn would advance. Now d5, ke5 and the pawn is immediately lost. And after the move kd3, black plays kf4 and there is no way to make progress for white. Only choice is d5, ke5, d6, kd6, kd4. White manages the opposition. He can win the pawn on b5. After kc6, ke5, kb6, kd6, kb7, kc5, ka6, kc6, ka7, kb5. But after kb7, in spite of all this, the position is drawn. The pawn is still on the 4th rank. The king has not managed on the 6th rank and black has the opposition. So the game will result in a draw. The method of sacrificing the pawn doesn't help at all. If white tries to waste the move with his king, which is most logical, from there we will get the set of coordinate squares. Coordinate squares means, as I discussed before, the squares on which the kings must remain mutually, like f3 and d2. When white king is on d2, black king is on f3. After the move kc2, the square where black has to remain is f4. Because to c3 we need e3. After kc3, the only way to stop the advance or the king's entry is the move ke3. When after d4, ke4 and the d pawn is lost again. Hence, white looks for a way to triangulate the king, that is, get this same position with black's turn. So, what we discussed last time, we find the set of squares, coordinate squares, and we see from where he can come to those squares. So, for f3 there is d2, for f4 there is c2, for e3 there is c3. So, what white sees for c2 and c3 squares, there is f4 and e3. So the squares to travel to these squares are b2 and b3, which are nearby squares, and the squares to travel to f4 and e3 are f3 and e4. And what we see, the pawn is stopping the entry or the occupation of e4 square. That is where white triangulates the position. He moves the king in a triangle and wastes the move. So kc2, kf4, white played kb3. kb2 and kb3 both are totally similar. Now after king e5, black can play the king to c2, because after kd4, kd2, again white will push the black king. We'll come to that position later. King can come to f3 and now kb2. You see that now black is stuck. He will have to get or come into the same position with his own move. After ke3, kc3, situation is even worse. After f4, white gets kd4 and the king goes to c5 and takes the b pawn. King f2 loses to the advance of the d pawn. King will go out of the magic square. So the only place to be is king f4. There is no other choice. And after king f4, white plays kc2, reaches the position which we had before after the moves kf3, kd2, and we will see that position is same as before but with black to move. Let's look at some interesting variations from here. Black would play ke5. To ke5, white should avoid the move kd2, because d2 and d4 are the set of squares where what we call as mined squares or the squares of reciprocal Zugzwang. So after kd2, kd4, the white king will have to go to e2, then kc3 and b4 is lost. So kd2, kd4, kc2, here not ke3 but black should play ke5 and we get to the same position. So after ke5, white plays kd1 and now he sidesteps the d2 square because after kd4 there will be kd2 and we are going to reach this same position from the kf3 kd2 line also. Let's go to that as well. After kf3 kd2 king f4 will reach a very similar position ke2 ke5. So same position can happen with the different move order. Now see ke3 kd5 d4 and we see a very interesting race of pawn which actually comes into white's favor. This is the most trickiest part about the position. After kc4 ke4 kb4 d5, if king a3 then d6 b4 d7 b3 d8 b2 and the queen versus pawn on 7th rank position is winning for white. So the only move kc5 ke5 b4 d6 b3 d7 b2 and we must be wondering its simultaneous queens. Oh, but there is the tactical point. After d8 b1 comes qc7 check, forcing the king on the b5 when qb6 check wins the queen and white wins the game. Let's play the moves and see. So d8 queen, b1 queen, qc7 check, kb4, qb6 check, king a3 or c3 and white wins the queen and wins the game. So it was a very tricky position. There were many different aspects to this position. We got the queen versus pawn on 7th rank. We got the position with simultaneous queens and won the queen with a skewer. And mainly everything was just possible because white was able to use the concept of triangulation. I hope you will find these lessons useful and instructive. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.